Hey up, morning, now then, how you doing? Welcome back to the Yorkshire Bike Mechanics YouTube channel. My name's Dave K. I hope you're all well and you're having a good week. And today, we've got a brilliant little video for you today. We've got a Trek Rail e-bike that's making a right racket. The noise is coming from the back end. We need to find out what's going on. It sounds horrendous. So let's have a listen and let's crack on. So here she is, a lovely Trek Rail in bright red. We seem to be working on loads of e-bikes really. Around about 50% of our workload are probably e-bikes, and that's increased such a lot over the last couple of years. It's actually mad. But this one's in for a first service. We work on a lot of these. There's loads about at the minute. And they're generally a really good bike, providing that it's well serviced, like any e-bike really. So this one, the first thing that I'd normally do is, if you've watched his videos before, I'd go ahead and grab the chain checking tool. I'm not going to do it in this case, okay, because I think we've got more of a pressing matter going on here. So I've put it in the stand. We'll lift it up a little bit. Oh, not down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these cranks and I'm going to let you have a listen, because I think we've got 2 or 3 issues going on here. And it's important that we try and identify which one is which. So let me turn it first and you can have a listen. So that noise that you hear is the actual rotor. It's slightly bent and that's catching on the caliper as it's going round and making that noise, as you can hear. It's fairly easy to sort out. All we need to do basically is just put a new rotor on there. We can put it in a jig and we can have a look at bending it back into a shape, but to be honest, it's really not worth it. I know it's bent in a few places, and so we'll just replace it and we'll put a new rotor on, set the brake back up, and that'll be sorted. So let's listen to the next sound. So that other sound that you can hear is basically rumbling of the bearings in the hub. You can actually hear it. It sounds absolutely dreadful, and there's definitely something going on in there, in the hub. You can hear it rumbling. That noise there is a poorly hub. Very poorly. Anyway. So the next noise that I'm going to ask you to listen to is this. Now I don't know whether you can hear that as good as the others, but that is poorly indexed gears. Okay, the clicking of the gears of the chain as it's going round is actually really poorly indexed. It could be that the chain is really worn and the cassette's really worn, and that's where his chain checking tool comes in. But the other thing that I want to show you what this bike's doing is it's actually going from the smallest cog onto the axle of the bike. I'll bring the camera around and you can have a look. So if I change the gear, well, it's actually on the bottom, but you can actually, the gear system will let us change it again. It doesn't know what it's doing, to be honest. It doesn't know what gear it's in. So if I change it again, you can see it's jumping straight onto axle. Now this particular gap on the axle there, I'll just get this chain back up there. Okay, we'll get it right at the top so it's out at way. So let me get my pointing tool. Now you see this particular gap here, that is normally a lot smaller than that. On most bikes you'll see that gap is a lot smaller. I've got another bike in the stand at the other side and I'll show you that particular gap. So you can see that particular gap compared to what we've just looked at is tiny. which is how it should be, which says to us really that there's something drastically going wrong with the other one. So let's go back. Oh, and while you're here, what I'll do is I'll just turn this wheel, and I know this one's right, and you can listen to this one. That's how a wheel should sound when it's just running in the frame and freewheeling. So here we are back again as Trek Rail Hub, and obviously that compared to the other one we've just looked at is massive, and there's a tiny little gap there as well. Now this suggests to us obviously that the wheel's not right and the hub's not right, so let's have a look and we'll grab the wheel from side to side and we'll see if there's play. And you can actually see that there's loads of play in this hub. Something's definitely not right there. So either the bearings have collapsed inside and it's all worked its way loose, which is probably what's happened. So let's get the back wheel out, let's get the cassette off, we can have a look at what's going on, and then we can see what we need to do to put it right. Right, okay, so we've got the wheel off the bike, and you can see we've taken the cassette off as well, and we can actually see the reasons why there was so much gap between the end of the cassette and the end of the lock nut on the axle. And that's because it's loose. It's actually unscrewed itself off the axle. Excuse me, but we've also got obviously the movement on the Freehub body as well, up and down, which we need to investigate. Now these particular hubs, they're actually Bontrager hubs or Bontrager hubs, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And I know that these actually are a seal bearing hub. There's a bearing in the front and there's a bearing in the back. But also what's different about these hubs is that this Freehub body will not come off on its own without it being unscrewed first. So we'll just quickly unscrew those, put them to one side, keep them safe, and the other side will be different, so don't get them mixed up. Okay, so what will happen is we'll take the wheel out and we'll do the other side. Okay, so we can actually take these lock nuts off, but it should actually slide out on its own, which it has. Okay. Now you can't mistake which way this goes back in, because you can actually see the actual marks where the bearings actually run. So we know that there's 3 bearings in this one. There's one there, and one there. We can actually see this side. We can see the bearing there. If we just lift that seal off there, just keep it to one side, and then we'll turn it back round. So this particular Freehub body will not come off on its own. It needs to be unscrewed from the inside. So what you need is a massive Allen key. Now the key that we need is a 14mm Allen key, and you can't get to this unless it's from the other side. So let's just take this off. So we'll turn it round, and we need to take that bearing out. That bearing at the other side. We need to take that out first, otherwise we won't get our Allen key in. It's actually that bearing that we're in there. I've actually drifted it out, okay, so you can actually get to that. Now this is where we need to put a 14mm Allen key in. And then that'll slide into the Freehub body at the other side. And it's actually loose. You can feel that actually should be really, really tight, but it's actually loose. We can actually unscrew that. And once we've unscrewed it, we can take the Freehub body off. Okay, so there's the Freehub body. We've got that off with a 14mm Allen key at the other side. That went in there. And then this particular holding nut on the other side went on the other side, so we could hold that in place. They were actually loose. So this thing were actually flopping around on the outside. So from the images that you're seeing now, you can imagine that the rebuild didn't go to plan. We discovered that the Freehub body had loads and loads of play in the end, and it were rumbling like mad. And I think that was because it had been damaged because of the end cap been loose for some time. So we spoke to the customer said there's no point in trying to replace the Freehub body. Let's build it in a brand new hub. Let's put a Hope Pro 4 in there and we'll use the existing rim. So that's what we did. So we've now got a wheel that sounds like a wheel should do. No Freehub body noise, no rumbling. Having said that, we've spent quite a bit of money on it. Obviously a hub at 190 odd quid plus the build, but essentially it's got a hub that'll last for many, many years, providing that it'll get looked after. So I think that just about covers this bike. But just before I finish, what I want to do is take you around to the other side and just let you know what else we've replaced. So the other main things that we needed to do with this particular bike, apart from sort the hub out, which we've done, is we needed to put a new chain on it. So we've used an Eagle chain from SRAM. We've gone to Hope for a front ring for this Bosch Gen 4 motor. And we've also replaced the cassette. It's a PG based cassette, a SRAM one for the Shimano Freehub body. So really we're all to go. New hub, new cassette, new front ring. We've run it through diagnostics. Everything's turned out right there. So yeah, a good service on this bike. We've had to spend quite a bit of money on it, but hopefully it'll last him another 12 months, if not longer, if he's careful. So with that, I'd like to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. If you've not subscribed, then please do so. It really helps us a lot. And total pip.